All right, just sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, January the 8th, 2025. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other than Mr. RadioPete and Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Happy New Year, gentlemen. How are you guys today?
It is a new year. You're not allowed to say Happy New Year after January 7th, though. According to Larry David.
According to Larry David and several other people. Yeah. January said 1 week. But seeing as the week was yesterday and we haven't done a show since December, I figured it was okay for this particular purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
even though we've said Happy New Year to the three of each other like 30 times.
There's too many rules to live by Larry David rules.
Yeah, new year, and you guys are still wearing those horrible football franchise.
Yeah, well, I figured since it's going to be the last time we can wear anything for
has Pete been officially announced as the new head coach of the New York Jets? You kind of look like you're at a press conference for this.
I've been gearing up.
Quite literally.
The only reason I'm wearing the hat is it's been too cold out to burn anything in the barrel.
There you go.
So I'm just going to wear the gear until it's gone.
It's gone.
I thought that you need something a little. You need something a little bit more substantial to actually burn to keep you warm.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
So
off to a riveting start.
Well, off to a riveting start as always. All right. So a couple things are changing this year. All right. And we're not going to roll them all out right now because they're going to be a work in progress. But that was the last time you're going to hear that opening that we've been doing for almost 5 years now.
5 fucking years. Jesus Christ.
So whatchamacallit? So the next
25 listeners, five a
year. There you go. But it's not a bad.
Well, I think it was 3 the first year, 4 the second year, and then 5 the third year, and we've been holding steady.
No. It was 20 the first year, and it's been 5 since.
Yeah. Well, at least we got those 20.
Let's not give any false pretenses that we've been escalating in viewership.
We've been escalating. I don't know about viewership though. Right. But in any event, no, I digress. We're gonna change up a couple things, the theme, a few other things. But those of you who have listened to the show or watched the show often, or at least recently, one of the things that's going to change is the memes in the beginning of the show. We're not going to do 9 memes in the beginning of every show now.
Good.
We're going to do one. We're going to do meme of the day. We'll do one.
I don't want one.
We're going to do one.
That's not what I signed up for. I said if I continue in 2025, no
memes. Well, we're going to do
one.
Or
I get to choose the meme because if it's an Asian misspelling of food, then I'm going to bang my head against the fucking wall.
Well, listen. We have many options here. We don't have to do the meme every week. If there's a really good one that comes up, then we can highlight it.
Well, that's kind of why I kind of said, okay, we should do this one.
Good one yet.
This one is not bad, though. This one is not bad. This one is we'll kick off 2025 And if
with
this
the last meme ever, we'll give you one
with either the last meme ever or the first in a series of meme of the week.
The last meme ever.
Well, we'll see what it is. Here we go. So this is this week's or this year's or the last one, however you want to look at it.
Last one ever. It better be good.
There you go, right there. Okay, so it's cock full o' nuts coffee.
Nope.
Excluding decaf and Colombian. You don't want any Colombian cock.
Number one, it's not. It's a reference that again fits our show perfectly because only people over the age of 45 will get this reference.
Exactly.
And did you notice that the nuts starts to rise up? Cock full of nuts.
Yeah, it does. It does. But and any variety of cock. Or nuts, for that matter.
Ground,
excluding decaf and Colombian. Which
excluding decaf and Colombian.
You know, yeah, that decaf cock is no good. It's
I don't know if decaf cock is no good, but I have heard that Colombian cock is amongst some of the best.
I heard that as well. That's definitely been something that's been out for a while. So, But there you go.
All right.
All right.
And there you go.
If there's any reason to bury the segment, we've just proven it.
We've just proven it.
Of course, the other thing we could do is anytime we do a meme, we could just say, "Oh, this is the last meme ever."
No,
there you
go. No, I do not want this to be like Aussie tours. I want this to actually end.
I like the reference of Aussie. That was good instead of other things you could have said, but that was
yeah. Speaking of references for 50-plussers,
exactly.
More people know who Ozzy is than chock full of nuts.
That's true.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, you know what?
That heavenly coffee.
No, because it is a heavenly coffee. It's better coffee than millionaires' money can't buy.
It's true. It's actually horrible coffee. The only thing worse is like Folgers flavor crystals, freeze dried.
Well, yeah. Then there's the.
What about
Sanborn vagina full of nuts coffee?
Yeah,
that's not good either.
Sanka veg. Yeah.
Sanka veg. All right. Alrighty, all that good. There you go. Okay.
Well,
so all right.
Yeah. It's instant.
Football. Let's go with
football. Wow, what a
we always like to start with what not to do on a podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you want to know how not to grow your audience, you've come to the right place. This is this is live tutorial.
It's a live cautionary tale. That's what it is.
That's right.
So, all right. All right. So look, the regular season's over. All right. We have 14 teams that are in the playoffs. Too shy of half of the teams are in the playoffs, which I love, but is what it is. So let's start off this segment with a little rehashing of what our preseason picks were. All right. Okay. So we know that the AFC East was won by the Bills. Okay. None of us had the Bills. Pete and I both said the Jets.
Who did I have in the AFC East?
You had the Dolphins.
Dolphins, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. AFC North we know was won by the Ravens. I had the Steelers, which at least they went to the playoffs, but nope, I was wrong. Harry, of course, everybody that watches the show knows damn well you were picking the Bengals. They're your sleeper team.
Still probably the third best team in the AFC. Just
probably
to make it to the playoffs.
Probably, and I got something on that in a minute, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But Ravens, Pete, pick the Ravens. One for Pete.
1 for 1.
One for one for two.
I mean 1 for 2.
There you go. AFC South, Texans won, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the least convincing championship.
A little bit
championship.
All three of us picked the Texans, so we all had that one right. And AFC West, the Chiefs won. All three of us had the Chiefs. So
yeah.
So
that's a sturdy limb to climb out on.
That's pretty strong.
Yeah.
And then going to the NFC, the East, all three of us had the Eagles. The Eagles won, so we had that right. The NFC North, all three of us had the Packers.
Close.
Yeah, none of us had belief in the Detroit Lions.
The Lions, yeah.
Sure.
So
we were all way off on that.
Yeah.
So we all got that wrong. NFC South, Pete and myself had the Falcons. However, Harry did have the Bucks.
Yeah. That's a good pick.
That was a good pick.
The magic of Baker.
Yeah, and all three of us were wrong on the West. We all said the 49ers.
Well, I think everybody and their mother said the 49ers.
Everyone said the 49ers.
Exactly.
I don't think we can be... We should be faulted heavily for the Bills because obviously we thought, well, they've been good for a while now. They're going to digress somewhat. Maybe somebody else is going to sneak in. And I was choosing the Jets to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because it was funnier, but and hopeful. So we should be, but I don't think us or anyone should be hammered for being wrong about the 49ers.
No, you're right.
What a horrible conference that it's turned into.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. So, and then the AFC.
I'll tell you what, the Rams are probably the best team in that division.
The Rams are the best team in that division. I got to tell you right now, obviously. I mean, that's silly, goes without saying, but of course, whatchamacallit, I'm just going to pull this up here. The Rams right now, they are the best
Right.
team. 2024.
Yeah, I would say that's
All right. So, mixed bag of picks. So
we got some of the easy ones right, some of the easy ones wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We did take a few chances that didn't work out so well. But
so week one, do you guys have any
Well, hold on,
quote-unquote upsets that you think?
hold the phone for a second here.
All right.
All right, we did pick the wild card teams. Okay.
Oh,
Wild card 1 was the Chargers. Okay.
Okay.
Myself and Pete both said the Bills, and Harry said the Jets. So that's wrong. Wild card 2 is the Steelers. Me and Harry both said the Ravens, and Pete said the Bengals. So that's wrong. And wild card 3 is the Broncos. None of us had the Broncos. But so the Chargers, Steelers, and Broncos. Pete is the only. Forget about the placement of them. It's a wild card team, right? We said 3 wild card teams. The only one that got any of them right was Pete. He had the Steelers.
Nice.
All right.
And I hate the Steelers, being a Cowboys fan.
There you go. And then the NFC wild card picture. I can pull this over here.
None of us had the Commanders.
No, we did not.
I can't imagine.
It's the Commanders.
12-win Commanders, right?
Yeah.
It's the Commanders. The
none of us had the Vikings either. I imagine.
Commanders, the Packers, and the Vikings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't imagine. Maybe somebody took the Packers, but
we all 3 of us had in different orders. All 3 different orders. All 3 of us had the same teams. Though we all had the Lions, the Rams, and the Cowboys. So the Lions and the Rams are in, but they're not wild card teams. And
right. And the Cowboys are not.
So compositely, if you're just picking teams that made it to the playoffs, over 50%, not bad.
Just picking teams that made it to the playoffs, yes, we were all over 50%. Yes.
We didn't get the right wild card team.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Now let's see. Can anybody be right with their? I said the AFC champ is going to be the Jets. That's no. And so did Pete. So that's not happening. And Harry said the Bengals. So we're out of that.
Mm-hmm.
We do not know the AFC.
I believe I had the Eagles.
The NFC, I said the Lions. Harry said the Eagles. So we're both in it. Pete said the 49ers. Yep. I said for Super Bowl champs, I said the Lions. Harry said the Bengals. And Pete said the 49ers.
So John's got the only chance.
Yes, I'm the
pretty good one.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. So there you go.
All
right. So that's that was our predictions for this.
So I think what we learned though is number one, none of us had faith in Detroit, and more importantly,
except for me. Well, that's for them to win.
I have faith in Detroit. Right. I just hate them.
All right. Well, that's fair. But number two, more importantly, don't place bets based on what we say.
Never.
Never.
Depends no be even considering that to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were thinking about, this sports show, I like these guys, and why not? Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Let me say something to that, though. Let me say something to that. If you look at all their so-called experts out there, I bet that the amount of teams that we picked to get into the playoffs was just as good as any of these other so-called experts.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let me.
We don't need to
pull something up here. I can't put it on the screen here, but I'll just read it to you here. This is, speaking of the experts, all right, this is the FanDuel 24 playoffs prediction.
Okay.
From before the season. Okay. All right. They had, in the AFC, Ravens were the number 1 seed, Bills 2, Chiefs 3, Texans 4. Playoffs were Browns were 5, Dolphins 6, Steelers 7.
All right.
So they had the Texans against the Browns in the 4-5 game, Kansas City against Miami in the 3-6 game, and the Bills against the Steelers. Then they had the Bills losing to Kansas City and the Ravens beating the Texans. So Ravens and Kansas City in the conference championship. and then Kansas City going to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
On the NFC side, San Francisco was 1. So this is like your basketball bracket,
Right.
where you know what I mean? You like one pick can ruin
I
everything.
mean, look, the 49ers couldn't
but here,
control
listen
a lot
to-
of their downfall.
Right, but Dallas was 2,
Hmm.
Lions were 3. Then you had the Bucks, the Eagles at 5, LA at 6, and Green Bay at 7.
So pretty close.
So they ended up with San Francisco beating Green Bay and then beating the Lions in the conference championship. So, and then losing to Kansas City.
So basically, they predicted last year's Super Bowl exactly again.
Yeah, they kind of went chalk. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you know,
Which they
we
could be
didn't
right.
have the Cowboys in the playoffs, and we didn't have Cleveland.
I don't think any
or
of
the
us
Dolphins
had
in the
picked the
playoffs.
Cowboys, right?
No.
Nobody picked the Cowboys.
I mean,
Not
we
even
missed.
me.
Obviously, everybody missed on the Vikings and the Commanders.
So
But,
we might have done a little bit better than FanDuel.
Yeah.
So maybe you can play some small bets based on what we.
Maybe you can dabble.
We're
Maybe you
just
can
as
have.
bad as everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. There's
We're no better.
Look,
But
if you're
we're not
listening to
top
other
notch.
people and not your gut, you're asking for it anyway. So have at it, however you want to do it. So looking at these games, first game is Saturday at 4:30, and it's the Chargers against the Texans. What do we think about that game?
Well, Texans are at home, and I believe the Chargers are favored by 3.
Yes, they are.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
The Texans are not a good team.
No,
and
they
I love it. I love it.
They
I hope the
regressed.
Chargers win by 30.
Well, you love it only because they screwed you so many times last
Fucking
year.
hate that team and their
Yeah.
overrated quarterback.
And the Chargers are coming on strong, right? Did they
I
win
don't know
their
about
last
strong.
3 or 4?
They're coming on like the Chargers always do.
Right.
They'll be gone in the second round.
So,
I
I don't know.
I mean, I don't.
I mean, you're
Yeah,
probably
most
right,
of
but
it.
I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's as definitive as that, but you're probably right.
I would take the Chargers.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Take
I
the
would say
Chargers.
Chargers.
All right. The next game is Saturday at 8:00, and that is the Steelers at Baltimore.
Yeah.
So,
If Baltimore
this
does not
kid,
win by 25, then they're doing something.
Well, this is the question. Steelers lost 4 in a row
Mhm.
at the end of their last 4, but they made it to the playoffs. The Ravens and their quarterback have a history of choking in the big games.
The
Underperforming,
big
let's
games.
say.
This isn't a big game. This is a first rounder.
Well, it's a first round playoff game. This is the kind of
It's a bigger game
but
than
I
last
agree.
week's was.
Yeah, I agree. The Ravens.
Best
should
thing that
roll
could
in this.
happen to the Ravens was Zay Flowers being questionable, because now it's a no-brainer. Okay, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson should combine for 40 rushes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's all you
this
do.
Shouldn't be close.
If you think of passing the ball, don't. Just run the ball,
Yeah.
control the clock, and the Steelers are not a good team.
No, they're not that good. So yeah, well, I think Ravens. John, Ravens.
Ravens, yeah, definitely.
All right, so we're all in agreement with that.
And then the first game on Sunday is the last AFC game. I get, but they put all AFC games, 3 AFC games, and then 3 NFC games, and then stagger them. But the 1:00 game on Sunday is the Broncos at the Bills. Harry,
Great story for the Broncos, although I think the Bengals are a better team. I think the Broncos lucked out both in one of their last wins against Indianapolis, and also the fact that they played a third-string Chiefs team.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's good. It's a good, maybe feel good warm up for the playoffs. Look, the Broncos have a very good defense.
Mm-hmm.
They can get to the quarterback. They'll probably be able to put some pressure on Allen. And Allen, at times, as we all know, can turn the ball over. And I don't think Buffalo's
so this
defense,
season, though.
less so, absolutely. I think he's one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the league. I think that this is going to be a really hard game for the Broncos to win. Buffalo should win, and they should win handily. They should cover the 9 and 9.5 point spread or whatever it is. Let's hope it's not a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't see the Broncos moving the ball enough and keeping up with the Bills on the offensive side. The Broncos are great if they're able to get out early and not have to play from behind. I don't have faith in this team playing from behind right now. And
Right.
they've won some games from behind, don't get me wrong. But this is a different scenario. Now, out of any rookie quarterback, I feel pretty good about Bo Nix going into this. And I like the Broncos defense, like I said. I just think that if the Bills, look, there's two teams this year that are the elephants in the room. It's the Bills and the Lions. And the Bills have had far less injury concerns than the Lions have.
Mm-hmm.
The door is open for them. They got to go through Kansas City. They kind of blew some games that they shouldn't have. The door is open for the Bills.
Yeah, it is.
And they should not, had they been playing the Cincinnati Bengals, I think that spread would have been cut in half, to be quite honest.
I agree.
If you can combine the Broncos and the Bengals, the Broncos defense and the Bengals offense, I think you have a Super Bowl champ.
Well, I'll bring this up right now. New England.
Yeah.
First game of the year. Won their first game of the year.
Right.
They beat the Bengals.
Right.
Okay. That one game. Okay. Everything else the rest of the year for both teams happens exactly the way it did.
Right.
Nothing else different. But that one game, that first game of the season, if it goes the other way and New England loses and Cincinnati wins, Cincinnati is in the playoffs.
Of course.
And New England has the first pick in the draft.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it didn't. And you have to win every game, and the regular season counts. I think this is a good step for the Broncos. I think they, I think they'll keep it close for a while. I think the Bills win by 2 scores, maybe not 2 touchdowns, but I think at the end they win by 2 scores.
Yeah, I would say probably around 10 points.
I was going to say 10. Yeah,
the Bills would win. They're a better team. You're right. This is a great step for the Broncos. This is, and Bo Nix, you've been on Bo Nix, correctly so, for more than a year now.
Sounds like
drafted.
Sounds like a healthcare regimen,
Right.
a workout regimen. I've been on Bo Nix for the last.
I've been on Bo Nix for more than
I've been on Joe. I've been
now.
on Burrow and Nix. Those are the 2 guys that I've been. Those are the only 2 guys I ever felt comfortable with when I saw them in college. Going, they're ready for the NFL.
Yeah, and this is a playoff game, which is, as you said, it's a different animal. It's a little different. And Nix might respond great to that, but it's very difficult as a rookie. Yeah. You're right. Very tough win. The Broncos really have to play practically the perfect game.
Yep.
The Bills can, make a mistake here or there. They're good enough and they're better.
Yep.
So, but I'd be surprised if it was really a blowout. I mean, you might get a late score that makes it, like a 20-point game or a 17-point game or something like that. Which
somebody breaks
doesn't really reflect,
somebody breaks
how close it was.
Takes to the house.
How close it was for the first 50 minutes of the game. But it's going to be tough for the Broncos.
All right, we all got the Bills there. What's the next one?
All right, so Sunday at 4:30 is the Packers visiting the city of brotherly love.
I'll take the Eagles.
Yeah. Look, here's
the
the question mark.
Love's pretty good, but they're not
going to be the Eagles quarterback.
Yeah, who's going to catch passes for the Packers too?
Well, Packers have more than one wide receiver.
That's true. They don't. Then Eagles only have one quarterback.
Well, they have 3.
Well, they have 3. Yeah.
2 of them are hurt.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
So
I'm actually leaning. Honestly, I got to be honest with you. I mean, the rule of thumb says to obviously take the Eagles. I'm taking the Packers here. I'm looking upset here.
Well, I don't know if Jalen Hurts is going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does.
He's going to play.
He's going to play hurt.
The Eagles are being cagey. He's going to play. Unless his foot has fallen off, he's going to play.
Oh, it's a concussion protocol more than anything else.
I thought who am I thinking of that hurt? No, that doesn't matter. He's going to play. They're going to manipulate it, and he's going to be in there. And the NFL is because the NFL is going to. I'm not saying maybe he shouldn't, but the NFL is going to allow it because that's where the money is.
Well, I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure the NFL has been lately all that lenient with any of this stuff, but I'm not going to pass judgment on that because I don't know it for sure. If Hurts plays, the Eagles win. I got to take the Eagles here. The Packers lost to the Bears.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think they actually wanted to lose to the Bears. I don't think they. Well, I don't mean it like that. I don't think they
played. They played their starters. They were going for that.
Well, here's the other thing. I don't know if you noticed this. Did you watch the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
there was 2 minutes left, or a little under 2 minutes left, and they flew down the field to kick that field goal. Eat some clock, dude. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, well, that end of game is a whole different discussion. We could do a whole podcast on why the NFL should just play 2 minutes and call it a day, because nobody knows how to play defense, and any team can score with 12 seconds left. Yeah. I just don't understand it. It baffles my mind. Mm-hmm. And this new kickoff rules got to go away. It's
ridiculous.
Just don't have any kickoffs. If you don't want kickoffs, don't have fucking kickoffs.
I want to see one team play 2-minute end of game offense for the entire game.
I want to see it go back.
There might be a couple of picks, but they're going to score 80 points. I want to see that.
Start on the 15. You start on your own 15. The starting on the 30 or 25 is stupid.
Yeah, they only got to go 30 yards and kick a field goal.
Exactly. It's dumb.
It's
absolutely
asinine.
Eagles.
The caveat you just said, I'll agree with you. If Jalen Hurts plays, the Eagles win.
He's back in practice today.
If Jalen Hurts doesn't play or isn't at least full, if he's not Jalen Hurts, right? Then there could be an issue. I think I'll come back to this in a minute, but I think it's probably the closest one to being an upset of any of these games.
Other than the Steelers, because they have a backup who's been proven. Mm-hmm. I think Jalen Hurts is the least impactful quarterback on any team.
Agreed. But he can manage the field.
He's a good quarterback. Got him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Eagles keep winning. They have 14 wins.
They're a good team. They're the most talented team in the NFL.
All right.
On paper, they have the most talent.
Well, that'll give you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Game 3 on Sunday. Game 2 for the NFC. Sunday night at 8:00 is the Commanders visiting Tampa.
This is maybe the most interesting game of the week.
Yeah. I got you know what? I'm going to say Commanders.
At home, I'm going to stick with the Bucks. They've treated me pretty well this year. There's something about this team. I think they'll win. I think they'll win this game. I think this is the game of the week. I do not feel comfortable in this pick.
This definitely has the potential to be.
But I'm going to go with Tampa. Washington's offense has been struggling a little bit the last couple of weeks.
They've won 5 in a row, and they're 4-1 in their last 5.
They have.
They find a way to win.
Who have they played?
Now the Bucks are 4-1 in their last 5.
Right. There you go.
But who have they played?
And they got a little Baker magic, but
on the Bucks games meant a little something. They had. I mean, they struggled against a not very good New Orleans team, but they won.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, this could go either way.
It really could. It really could.
But I think the Commanders were all the rage for the first
8 weeks,
9 weeks of the season, right?
And then they kind of fell back to the pack.
Not really.
Yeah, and then they sort of had some struggles, and people kind of stopped talking about them, which I think was good. And then we started looking at, the other races with the Steelers and the Bengals and things like that, and they just kind of quietly. You're right, their offense wasn't quite as prolific, but they got wins and they played some decent football. And I think they're in a really good place right now heading into the playoffs. Of course, you could say the same thing about the Bucks too.
Sure.
I think the big win, I think the only big win for the Commanders, and it was huge, was that game where they came back and beat the Eagles. And I think that was a huge win for them.
Agreed.
They lost to the Cowboys. They lost a close game to the Steelers. They beat the Saints. They beat the Titans. You, me, and John, and 3 girls from softball team could beat them. They squeaked by the Saints, but the Saints have given a bunch of teams a run.
Yeah,
for their money.
The Saints were an enigma the whole season.
Yeah, exactly. They beat the Falcons. My gut. I'm torn on this one. I'm not going to be surprised if the Commanders win, and quite honestly, whoever wins, I'm going to be happy for him because I think both of these teams are fascinating in a lot of ways. I don't think they.
Yeah, you can if you're not a fan of theirs, you can root for either one of them.
Right.
Let me just say this: as far as the divisions go, the Commanders won 12 games in a 2-team division, right? One of which, the other team in their division was the Eagles, who's one of the best in the NFC. Cowboys and the Giants were 10 and 24. As far as the Bucks, they had 10 wins. If you take the Falcons out of it as the other, second team, Panthers and the Saints were 10 and 24. So, the Commanders were at least playing one better team twice a year than the Bucks were.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what that all means when you get to the playoffs, I don't know. But I like the Commanders. Obviously, I had them on my fantasy roster, so I have affection for them. But if the Bucks win this game, yeah, I'm probably rooting for the Bucks over just about anybody else.
Yeah. Here's what that Commanders Philly game told me, because it was on the NFL Network and it played in rerun, and I happened to be working and watching it. And if you watch that game, it was kind of over. And then all of a sudden, here come the Commanders. Tells me two things. Tells me I'm still not over my concerns with the Eagles being able to win and finish big games. They're a good team. They've won a lot of games. They're very talented. And I think Saquon's a difference maker. I'm not convinced those are the games that you win if you're a championship team. And the other thing it told me is that this Commanders team has more talent than I think we give them credit for, beyond just Jaden Daniels. Look, they've got one of the better backups in the league. Marcus Mariota, granted, playing a Cowboys team, they didn't have to win that game, but they did. And that tells me a little bit. And if you watched the body language of that team and how excited that sideline was when Mariota ran in for that touchdown, this Washington team has some juju going, kind of like Tampa did last year. I think Tampa still has it. I think the difference maker here is the experience of Mayfield Baker, and maybe one of the best receivers in all of football. That's the difference maker to me.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So Pete, who are you? You going Tampa?
I'm gonna take the Commanders. I think they get one. I think they get this one.
All right.
Sorry, Baker. I love you, man, but I don't think you're gonna win this one.
All right.
And then Monday's game. That would be Monday night at 8:00, and that's Minnesota visiting Los Angeles.
Yeah,
play the Rams, obviously.
Question first: has there ever been a Monday night playoff game before?
Yes, last couple of years.
Last couple of years. It's a newer thing, though, right?
Newer, yeah.
Okay, newer. I think the real Sam Darnold showed up last week. I saw the fear and indecision back in his eyes. Now, I don't think it's a given, but they got to go to LA, which who knows if people are even going to be able to get in there and play.
Right. They may have to move the game depending on how bad it gets. I want to believe in this Vikings team, but they looked bad. And I think I hope I'm wrong. I think Minnesota's going to turn the ball over just enough to give this game to the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams at home. All
right. That's definitely a possibility. Look, amongst all the quote unquote potential spoilers, I would probably put the Rams at the top of the list as far as most likely to spoil. A little bit over. I mean, maybe because the Chargers are playing the
Chargers are favored.
Okay, so there we go.
So
and they have a better record. Favored. So I don't know if that's really a spoiler.
No, I don't think it is. I think the Chargers are a better team.
But I'd give. The Rams got healthy and their defense got good, and they're gonna wring maybe another year out of Stafford. You're right. Darnold didn't look good last week.
No,
but we've been looking for an excuse for the Vikings to be bad.
Yeah, they were bad.
They were bad last week, but I can't
They were
hold the
bad last
rest of
week.
the season against them and say they're done being good after
Okay.
being good for 14 games.
And I was
In a
going to go this.
division with the Packers
We shall
and
see.
the best team
That was a playoff game.
in the league.
That Lions-Vikings game was a playoff game.
No, because they're not going home. They
It
know they're
was a
going either
playoff
way.
game.
They know they're
And
going
it
to
was-
the playoffs. That was not a playoff game. It was a division game.
It was a big,
But
important.
It was an
don't think
important game, but it wasn't a playoff game, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I
And that in
count
turn, to some extent, makes it worse, right? Because
We'll
it
see.
wasn't a playoff game, right?
We'll
But
see.
No, but I can't take not winning the division against the best team in football as a and yeah, they didn't look good, but I can't look at that and go, yeah, they're not going to play good anymore. Not good enough to beat the Rams. I like the
We'll see.
Rams, but I could be
I'm-
wrong.
I'm
But
taking-
like I said, I do think the Rams have the most potential for the upset.
I'm taking the
But
upset.
I think the Vikings are going to win it.
I'm taking
well,
the upset. I
here we
hope the
go.
Vikings win it, to be honest with you. I hope they do.
all right. Well, here's what I'm going to say about the Sam Darnold thing, and I agree where Pete was going with this. I said the same thing watching the game. Oh, here he is. Sam Darnold's back, right? Easy to say, right? Because everybody's been waiting for that dime to drop, right? And for the other shoe to fall. So to
Yeah,
speak.
and it didn't happen until week 18.
Right. But here's the thing,
Against the
though.
Lions.
Here's the thing, though. Okay. While he had a horrible game, okay, he had 17 pretty damn good games, or not 17, 16 pretty damn good games, and won 14 of them. All right. Convincingly. And in the two losses, he played very extremely well, too. So, are you going to tell?
It's an anomaly.
It's an anomaly. This is an anomaly. And 16 weeks, 16 games of great play is not the anomaly, and 1 week is the real him. It's the other way around.
It's not just Sam Darnold. I'm looking at this entire Vikings team. Here's my takeaway.
Mhm.
They're not as good as a depleted, hurt Detroit Lions team. They're not as good. Now, could they beat the Eagles? Maybe.
Mhm.
Could they beat any other team other than the Lions? Yeah. Something about this going on the road after that game against a Rams team that is, let's face it, been playing a lot better towards the end of the season than they did at the beginning of the season.
Mhm.
The writing's on the wall here. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am wrong. But I got to go with my gut, and I think the Rams win this game. I think it's close. I think it's a one-score game. Might come down to a field goal. Might go to overtime. Who knows?
Yeah, this could easily be a last play of the game.
Sure.
Game.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right. I'm going to say the Vikings are going to win. But it's definitely going to be close.
Yeah.
And out of this field, I trust, after what I saw on Sunday with the way Minnesota played, I trust Minnesota beating the Rams more than I trust them beating Philly or even beating Tampa, for that matter.
You trust the Vikings against the Rams more than Tampa?
More than the Vikings against Tampa.
More than the Vikings against Tampa. I think the Vikings would have, I'm not saying they would lose, but I think they'd have a little bit more difficult time playing the Buccaneers than they would playing, and they got the same record. The Rams and the Bucs have the same record, so it's not a matter of that. It's just, right. I think their easiest path to the next round is of any of the games it could have been is the Rams. So I think it is going to be close, but I think Minnesota's going to win. So
here's what I find fascinating about the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that, in the past, when we've thought about the Rams, we think about these, sort of high flying offensive games, and they scored a lot of points, even though they lost, the last game of the season against the Seahawks. Not a good sign. Of course, they didn't really, I don't think it was a win or lose kind of scenario.
Right.
13-9 against the Cardinals, 19-9 against the Jets, 12-6 against the 49ers. Of course, they beat the Bills in a basketball game. But since that Bills game, they haven't put a lot of points on the board.
No.
But here's the thing I like. They haven't given up a lot of points. And they've been able to win these close one-score games.
Yep.
And to me, I know that sounds counterintuitive. That kind of makes me feel better about this team. The fact that they haven't played their best football and they've won the games they needed to win.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I hope Minnesota wins. There's just something, this game just sort of feels like, here's where reality hits.
Yeah, good defense that doesn't give up a lot of points makes it easier for your offense. Even if they're a power offense who is having an off day, if you don't have to score 21 or 24 points a game, makes it a lot easier to win. And that's why one of the reasons I think the Rams are dangerous.
Yep.
But if I can I just rant about a couple of things here just for a minute? Number one, I guess as John said, they did it last week. Do we really need a Monday night playoff game? You're taking over Saturday. You're the NFL. Just have 3 games on Saturday and 3 games on Sunday.
Well, that's the way it used to be, right? I can't even say that actually. No, that's wrong. There used to be 4 wild card games, so there was 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. And the 2 on Sunday were 3:30 or 3 and 6:30 or something like that.
Yeah, you can.
When they added that third wild card team, and they split it up, instead of 2 teams having a bye, and there was 4 teams playing in the wild card weekend, and it's 1 team, so there's 3 games. Since then, that's when they've been playing Monday games.
So just do 3 and 3.
Yeah, but you're right though. They could do a 1 o'clock game on Saturday, a 1 o'clock, 4:30, 8 o'clock on both days. Done.
Yeah, it's 1 weekend out of the year, and you've already got Saturday games going on during the regular season.
You want to know why they do it on Monday? Because but not just the ratings. There's 6 games. Everybody's getting a game. Prime is getting a game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that was the other. That was the next thing I was going to bring up.
If they don't play on Monday, ABC or ESPN is not getting a game.
Okay.
Because of the contracts they have.
That was my next point. Why is there a fucking playoff game only on Prime?
Yeah.
And we know the answer. Well, the answer to all your questions is money.
Right.
Bad job, NFL.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. There's something about that. I don't know if it was Netflix or Prime, one of those feeds. Mm-hmm. The quality of the fucking picture was horrible.
Disgusting.
Terrible.
It was Netflix. It was
horrible. Netflix. I felt like I was watching it in the 80s.
It was Netflix.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Not prepared for the audience. It was like the Tyson what's his name fight.
Yeah.
Get
Netflix
your shit
was
together.
Not prepared to carry.
They
get your shit together.
Yeah, to carry the stream and to have that much bandwidth going out watching it either. They weren't prepared for it. Now Prime has their shit down. Prime has their.
It was Netflix.
It's Netflix. It's Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, it was Netflix that was bad. But still,
you're right, because I've watched more on Prime. So here's
you shouldn't have to get You shouldn't have to get Amazon Prime to watch an NFL playoff game.
Here's to Pete's point about the Monday night game. The football fan in me, the guy who probably will be sitting around on a Monday night, loves it. I think it's good. I don't think it's fair. One of those teams is going to have one less day to play and prepare between games, because the next 2 games are all on either Saturday or Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really all that fair.
Fair enough.
So do you put the Saturday winners, if you put 3 games on Saturday, do you put all those 3
hopefully
on the next Saturday?
What's the Monday night game again? Is that the Rams?
Vikings Rams. Yeah.
Vikings Rams.
So that next round of the NFC game,
they'll make sure that they schedule whoever wins that game.
Sunday.
They'll make sure they schedule that for Sunday. So it would be like somebody playing on Sunday.
I know,
and then playing Saturday.
But here's the deal: no Monday night game this week. Nobody had one less day to get ready for the playoffs.
Right. So yeah, I mean, this is the playoffs, and
next round
day can make a difference.
I like it as a fan. I like it.
Well, that's not.
I don't think it's fair.
The team's playing,
and right now that extra day. Let me tell you something. In the playoffs, could very well mean somebody playing or not playing.
Sure. Well, that's the whole thing, though. If you look at it from this standpoint, from this week, right? The teams playing on Sunday, the 6 teams playing on Sunday have an extra day than the 4 teams playing on Saturday, and the 2 teams playing Monday have 2 extra days.
Right.
So I mean, there's give and take there. But you're absolutely right. No, it's not so much about. It's a little bit about preparedness, but it's more about your body healing from the week before.
There's too many teams in the playoffs, by the way.
All right.
Oh,
Next point. Next
Mhm.
point. Well, I'm gonna ask something related to just the opposite of that, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen in our major leagues, right? We see hockey, and they always used to be the joke. Oh, half the league is in the playoffs, right? Well, now it's kind of true of basketball, and it's sort of getting that way with baseball, right? We have more teams in the playoffs, more wild cards.
Mm-hmm.
Would it really be so terrible if the Bengals and the Seahawks were in the playoffs this year?
Theoretically, just to see the Bengals, and I don't think the Seahawks were all that great of a story. Although,
no, but they're the next team up. They're the first team that didn't make it.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? Let me finish this thought. Why don't we do this? Because this relates to that. Let's get rid of the playoff bye. You talk about something that's unfair. Why do we give the two best teams in the league, right? The best team in each conference. Why do we give them a week off to rest and repair? Blah blah.
Well, because
blah.
that's one of the perks of having the top spot.
Okay,
and it's always been that way.
Let's do this.
Used to be two teams that had a bye.
Why do we want to make it easier for the two best teams to win?
Because that makes sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Let's get rid of the bye, and instead, if you have the best record and you're the top,
no, because you're going right where they went in baseball. The regular season means fucking nothing. Then the regular season, just like the regular means fucking nothing.
The regular season will mean you're at home for the whole playoffs.
It's horrible.
But you still got to play the same number of games.
I disagree.
Why do we make it demonstrably easier for the best teams?
Because they earned it by having the best spot. And it means something.
But why not just give them home field through the playoffs as that reward for being the best spot? And then we can have 8 teams, and you don't have this bye week.
Well, we used to have 6
teams. Or you can go back to having the top 2 teams having a bye week, and you could have 6 games.
There you go.
And the top 2 teams have a bye week.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. This extra team. You already got an extra team. I'm not giving you another one.
I'm saying have because you can't do it. You can't have the top 2 teams have a bye and not have an extra wild card team. That's the only other way to do it, is to have the extra wild card.
Because we have an extra conference now.
Because we have the extra division. Yeah.
Division.
Yeah. So
you'd have really need is 4 divisions.
No, or 2.
Or 2.
Less playoff fucking teams. Across the board, all sports, less playoff teams. The NBA play-in game is horrible. That Major League Baseball is too many fucking teams, and obviously it doesn't mean a damn thing anymore to win in the regular season. I'm done with it. Less teams.
I just think it's so much of an advantage in football because it's one and done.
I don't have a punt
pass. You've got the best record in the conference. Right. You're getting the week off. You're getting to play, potentially one of the lower seed teams.
Yeah.
And if you had 16 teams in, you'd be playing 8 because you're number 1.
Absolutely.
And you'd have home field advantage. Why isn't that enough of an advantage for you for having the best record? Isn't that incentive for having the best record? I'm going to be at home and I'm going to play number 8 in week 1.
Nah.
Instead, we have this,
we've always had a bye. We've always had a bye in the first round.
I know, and I think it's one of the worst things you could do in sports.
I don't think it is.
Because everybody plays the same number of games. And look, the Chiefs had 15 wins, the Lions had 15, the Eagles had 14, the Vikings had 14. Yeah. So that one win is going to give you this huge advantage.
Well, that's a different discussion.
I think that's disproportionate.
That's a different discussion because here's the other thing is that yes, that one win, if you so have it, should get you that. However, a team that has 15 wins or 14 wins should not have to go on the road to play a team.
Well, that's my next point.
That's a whole other thing.
You can't give the division winners higher seeds just because they're division winners. The Vikings have 4 more wins than the Bucks and the Rams, and they're a 5 seed, and they have to go on the road.
How many teams are there in the NFL right now?
There's 32.
32.
Right?
32. So there's 16 in each conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
For each division.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Each conference. So and how many games do we play how many games did we used to play I mean, look, here's my take on it: is we need to get rid of these divisions. I hate that. Do the Giants and Cowboys and Packers and Bears really need to play twice every year? No. Just look, and if you have a tie, then strength of competition comes into play. So if you played higher ranked teams with better records, then that does bump you ahead. But I don't think Minnesota should be going on the road to play a playoff game. It's
I agree. They should be ranked ahead of the Bucs.
And the Rams shouldn't be going on the road to play a playoff game. So these divisions have always been an issue, especially when you look, and look, I think, like you mentioned earlier, when you get to play the Giants twice, when you get to play historically, people have talked about this with the Patriots in the past. Just mix it up. I think there's a way for that you could get teams to play more of a diverse schedule, play each of your, just play half the league every year, and the next year play the other half.
Right.
And
I'm
that's
saying
the way it should be.
Seed teams based on how good they are, not higher seeds simply because they won a division. If you win a shitty division that doesn't have another team in it,
I agree with
over
that.
500, you shouldn't be ranked higher.
We both agree with that. I don't agree that the top rated team should not get a bye. I don't agree with that. I think that's one of the things that I
but I'm saying when you're seeding the playoffs, you can't put the Vikings fifth over the Bucs.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. A team that wins, has the second best record, right? Were they tied for the second best record in the NFC?
Yeah,
should not have to go on the road.
Right,
makes no sense.
And they play in a division with one of, if not the best teams in the Lions. And the Bucs play nobody, in their division. Right. So they shouldn't be.
So wins are wins, better record, higher seeding. But if it's tied and you got 2 10-7 teams, then strength of schedule should be the determining factor for. And it's not,
and that'll be largely determined by the strength of the rest of your conference,
or just the ranking of the teams that you played at the time that you played them. That's it.
All right.
So we agree the NFL playoffs need some. They need
retooling. They need retooling.
Now these are anomalies for the most part. In the past, things have kind of panned out the way they kind of should. But there's going to be more of these as you add teams to the mix.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think there should be at least 2 less. I guess it would have to be 4 less playoff teams. Look, I'm okay. I think this is a good setup, but I like that there's something to fight for there, and I think that bye week is very deserving if you have the top. If you have the top seed in each conference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think it's
you don't agree. That's fine.
No. Give here's home field and you get to play number 8 first round. That should be enough reward.
As long as number 8 is actually number 8. Right?
Well, that's the thing. If you're not seeding, in this case it would be the Bengals.
So let's give your scenario a play out, okay? So let's say the Bengals got in as that last team in lieu of the Broncos or the Steelers.
Right.
Okay.
So the Chiefs would have to play.
So the Chiefs would have to play the Bengals in the first round at home.
Yep.
That changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Makes it more interesting, doesn't it? Makes it more interesting.
Doesn't it?
I don't like it, but
I do. I think,
but I don't care.
Especially because
please don't make it like hockey.
Right.
This year, I think it's extra relevant because the Chiefs, even though they're 15-2, are not the Chiefs of old. They're not as good. They are the least.
You guys are.
They're not deserving of a 15-2 record.
You can't 15 minutes ago tell me that the Vikings are who they are because of their record, and then say that the Chiefs are
no.
not.
But what I'm saying,
I said Sam Darnold wasn't who he was because of the record, not the Vikings.
What I'm saying is, if the Chiefs were dominant as they have been in the past, and 15-2, and they went against the Bengals, who were on the come, right? They've been good lately. They've got the number one quarterback, the number one receiver. You know, they've improved. And then the Bengals came in and beat them, and you go, man, that was really unfair.
Mm-hmm.
But the Chiefs, despite the records, if you look at the team and the way they've played and the games they've played, they're not all that far apart. So that
remember when the Bulls won 70 games and won a championship, and then you remember the next year when the Bulls won 50 games and won a championship. That's the Chiefs.
I'm not saying that they're not going to win or they can't win. My point is, how I should have said it was this: the dominant Chiefs, the way they've played lately, and if they went 15-2 in another year when they were just ridiculously rolling over everybody, they did not play to that level this year.
That's fine.
They did catch
a bunch of breaks. I would love to have that problem. No, let's also clarify one thing. They were actually 16-1.
Yeah, well, they just laid down in the last game. I know,
yeah. So. Now you could argue that they could have been 9 and whatever it comes out to, 9-8,
right?
Because the first 7 games it was magic that they won. But
they're one of the only teams that didn't score more than 30 points.
Still won.
Even the Giants did.
They still won.
Yeah,
they did.
I just
I would love to see them. God, hope
not to see the Chiefs play the Bengals first round.
Yeah, well, we're not going to. Maybe next year.
But we're not going to.
All right. Our next show is going to be after divisional weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. So just looking ahead, based on what we picked, and we could all be wrong with our picks anyway, right? But AFC, we all were on par. We all agree with each other. The Chargers are the only wild card team advancing, and Baltimore and Buffalo. The Chargers are going to beat Houston. So if that does happen, we're looking at Baltimore at Buffalo and the Chargers at the Chiefs. Just out of curiosity, what do we think about those two matchups?
I think the Chiefs beat the Chargers. Look, Pete was saying that he thinks Detroit's the best team in football. I don't. Okay. I think the 3 best teams in football are all in the AFC.
Okay.
And
I think that's Baltimore.
I mean, in a division round,
I'm going to say you're saying Baltimore, Buffalo, and Kansas City.
Yeah. Where that game will be in Buffalo, right?
Baltimore and Buffalo. Yeah, in Buffalo.
In Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would take Buffalo in that game.
I would take Buffalo, but let me tell you something. If you just say Flowers is a big loss, but if you just look at the Ravens and what they've done, it's not that clear cut.
Jackson's having a better year than he did.
His numbers are phenomenal.
The last MVP.
His numbers are
outrageous. Yeah,
but Josh Allen's numbers are phenomenal. But Josh Allen lost a couple. They both lost a number of games that they should not have lost. That Patrick Mahomes did not lose.
Well, he had some help.
He did. All right.
But they both have to get all the way through the playoffs to the Super Bowl without having that mistake. They both and until you do it, you haven't done it.
Look, you know how I feel about
high, but it can't be that high.
If it's the Eagles, the Lions, then fine. I'd rather see somebody else beat the Chiefs before they get to the Super Bowl.
I agree. I would too.
And I think Buffalo and the Ravens, I think they're better than Detroit. If Detroit was completely healthy, I might think differently. But I think that Buffalo and Baltimore have a better chance of beating Kansas City. Now, it doesn't mean that I think they might have the Detroit might still have the best chance of winning the Super Bowl. That's different. But come on. I mean, a Buffalo Detroit Super Bowl.
Mhm.
Just sit back and watch the misery unfold.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hear where you're going. I get it. I do big time.
Because finally one of them are going to win.
Right. But it would be something because neither of them it's the first Super Bowl in how long that both teams playing have never been in a Super Bowl before.
Right.
Have never been in, have never won a Super Bowl before.
Buffalo's won plenty.
Yeah. But
it goes against the NFL script, so it's not going to happen.
We'll see. Until Kansas City loses, I have faith in no one.
Right. So,
but
except Kansas City.
All right.
Top three teams. I think if I'm rating teams right now, I'm going in no particular order: Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, Detroit. It's that much of a difference.
All right. We'll talk about the championship games. We all three of us agree that if our picks for the AFC hold true, the AFC championship game is going to be the Bills at the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
now
if I had to.
on the NFC side of things, Pete and I both think Washington is going to beat the Bucks, and we both think that Minnesota is going to beat the Rams. So for Pete and I, our divisional weekend is going to be Washington at Detroit and Minnesota at Philly. So Pete, Washington at Detroit.
I'll take Detroit.
And Minnesota at Philly.
Well, I think Hurts is going to play if they have to, I don't know, pad his brain with extra fluid or something. Who knows? Maybe he'll wear one of those cover things,
bigger covers,
the kazoo helmet,
Right.
But I'll take the Eagles.
And
I'm rooting for Sam Bradford Darnold. I really am. I'm very happy for him.
I mean,
I'm very happy for him.
How could you not?
So you think that the divisional weekend would be
Eagles
Lions and Eagles,
or the championship weekend would be
championship,
Eagles at the Lions. Yeah. I do agree with you,
and I think the same. So it doesn't matter who gets there ahead of them.
All right, so Detroit's. So you would say how you spell things out, Harry. You said the Rams at Detroit and the Bucks at Philly. You still think that Detroit and Philly are winning, so it's the same.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're all in agreement with what the championship games are going to be. So let's see how that plays out.
Picking games that may or may not happen is,
and I think it's going to be Detroit and Kansas City.
Risky.
Look, there's something about this Eagles team that I just don't have.
Something about Eagles team.
I just don't have confidence with them getting past Detroit. Yeah. Detroit, I think it's their time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, they lost Hutchinson weeks ago, and everybody went, "Oh man, how is that going to affect?"
And he might be back for the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kept winning.
Yeah,
and they've got a week to rest and get healthy.
I will give credit where credit is due. Dan Campbell is coach of the year.
Yep,
and I don't like him. I think he's an idiot.
No, I think none of us had as much faith in Detroit as other people did, in large part, or at least for me. I don't want to speak for you guys, because of Dan Campbell.
He is the coach of the year.
Convinced that
and
he
his
was
coordinators. His coordinators are both going to be head coaches next year somewhere.
I listened to some audio on Tiki was one of them, but a couple other people that played with Dan Campbell, because Dan Campbell was drafted by the Giants.
Yeah,
he was the Giants' tight end for 3 years until they drafted Shockey, and then they got rid of him.
Right.
But so these guys played with Dan Campbell, and they all said that they saw it in him then when he was young, a young player, 20-something. So. Yeah.
No, he's the real deal.
He was the
all right. So do we have to pick the Super Bowl now too? Or
no. We'll be back before that.
We'll be back to pick two teams that none of us picked will probably be there.
Exactly. All right.
It's gonna be the Ravens and the Bucks.
All right.
If it's the Ravens and the Vikings, that'd be great.
It would be interesting.
Purple on purple.
Purple on purple. All right. It's time for
the 2024 Get On With It Podcast Fantasy Football League.
Football League.
All right.
Here's what's exciting.
Yeah, for it.
Not the outcome of this year. Although it's kind of exciting because Harry won. He beat the coin 2 weeks ago now. And John and I fought it out in the consolation game, and I ended up in third.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Harry the coin, me, and John.
What I love that the two guys that dominated most of the season ended up in last and third.
We were fighting for best record.
Let me clarify dominating. You dominated in head-to-head wins.
Right.
But I still was right there in actual wins based, on individual games.
Yeah,
and at the end, I think I actually wound up having the most or tied for the most.
You and I were tied for the most points.
Right. That's what I mean. So I got horrible matchups. I would get 4, somebody would get 5. I would get 3, somebody would get 4. So my record was horrible. But when I looked at the actual points, we were all right there the whole season.
Yeah. And you stoinked me 6-5 in the first week of the playoffs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when you
6 wins in the playoffs is tough.
That's the most you can get.
I know.
You can't get more than 6 points a week.
So what I'm saying is I almost had to be perfect to get through and to get any wins because everybody played their best week against me.
Well, it didn't help that I wound up picking teams that we thought were going to be decent at the beginning of the year. And I wound up having I literally wound up having 2 teams that you could pretty much rely on.
Right.
And everybody else just sucked. I had 3 playoff teams on my roster, but one of them is Houston, and
we both had some very disappointing teams. For me, early on, it was the Bengals. I was the Dolphins and
the Dolphins were terrible for you.
I just sat them every week. Minnesota was my saving grace, along with
Denver
the Broncos,
to a certain extent too,
to some extent.
Yeah, we all had that. For me, it was Pittsburgh. I wasn't expecting them to.
Yeah.
I mean, they were only a 10-win team, but that was
10 wins. 10
wins is 10 wins.
Yeah.
And of course,
I had Kansas City, Green Bay, and Houston were my best 3. But I also had Indianapolis, Arizona, the Giants,
and New England. Oh my God,
the Giants, New England, and the Bears. So where was I going?
Your bottom 4 was probably the worst. I mean, the coin had like Carolina, I think, and the Raiders, right? Harry, you had Jacksonville. Yeah. So and the Commanders for me were obviously the
big surprise, and it helped.
They were like my 7th pick, and they ended up being one of my stalwarts.
My roster wound up towards the end of the year being what I thought it would be.
Right.
But for the first 8 weeks, my power teams were horrible.
It was rough.
Even ball.
The Bengals were a huge letdown for the first half of the season. But now here's the thing.
And even the Ravens were a letdown in the early on.
Yeah, Ravens did not have a good start either. But I think you ended up win-loss record. I think you ended up at 500.
Yeah.
So, which was good because you started like 1-4. So here's the thing. I think for next year, I want to throw a few wrinkles. Because one of the things Harry said was, there's really not much skill to this. You're just going to put in blah, blah, blah. Your good 6 teams. You sort of look at the matchups, but you have 2 shitty teams on your roster that you never start anyway. So, So here's what I'm thinking. We could do the same thing, but we'll throw in some wrinkles. Number 1, we'll pick against the spread.
No.
And
it's not. It makes it harder, is what it does.
Yeah, it makes it harder. You have to really, because you might want to.
Team could lose, and you'd still win because of the spread.
Well, here's the thing. Now, if you pick an underdog, now we can also arrange the points because it's 1 point for a win, half for a tie, and none for a loss. But what if we do this? If you pick an underdog, but they beat the spread, you get half a point. If you pick an underdog and they win outright, you get maybe 1.5 points.
Right.
If you pick a favorite and they don't beat the spread, well, then you get a point. If you pick a favorite and they beat the spread, you get 2 points.
No, then I'm just going to pick the favorites.
If you pick a favorite and let's say the spread is like 2 touchdowns and you beat the spread, well, maybe you get 3 points. So we can have a lot more. So rather than a minimum of 0 and a maximum
just
of
being
6,
a 1, and you can actually walk away from one week with 12 points.
Right.
Exactly. That kind of thing. Yeah.
That might make it a little bit. I have to look at the details, but I think it could make it to make it, and we could also have maybe a redraft of maybe your bottom 2 or 3 teams, like mid-season.
Interesting.
So you can trade
3 teams I'm throwing in, and we're going to redo the draft, and whatever. Just to make it interesting. Or we could scrap the whole goddamn idea, because the harder it becomes, the more intricate it becomes, the more work it is for me. That he won, but he didn't beat the spread. How much is that? Well,
I don't mind picking games versus the spread. I don't want to be tied into fucking Jacksonville and Miami.
Well, don't pick them next year.
Well, just have regular picks. Go back to having picks.
And just picking against the spread, that's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Although with the 1 and 2 point,
we have
the 1 and the 2 point and the 3 point game, that was a nice wrinkle.
We have 7.5 months to figure it out. So
so we don't have to. All right. What else do we have for football? Do we want to do an Are They For Real?
I think we should. I think we should.
Nice. I got a nice football.
On that note, though, congratulations to Harry Lug Nutz.
Congratulations, Harry,
for winning this year's
inaugural.
I have a chance.
Get On With It podcast Fantasy Football League.
Yeah, the inaugural stupid league.
I could 3-peat.
That's true.
Okay.
All right. So so I was thinking about Are They For Real?
What is real? What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Pretty sure none of that's real.
You're not real.
For real, for real, for real. Yeah.
Are you for real? For real? For real? For real?
Are they for real?
What is real?
All right. Are they for real? As you know, it means lots of different things. It's a football edition. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Week 18 schedule, the Week 18 schedule. I know that was a couple of weeks ago, or last week, or whatever it was.
It was this past
a couple of days ago.
3 days ago, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of days ago. There we go. Well, listen, like I'm looking at a calendar. Come on. So
I know it was 3 weeks ago.
It was like
it was in
September,
May,
wasn't
wasn't
it?
it?
It's been a rough
May,
week.
yeah. So we're I'm on a new allergy medication.
Yeah.
So we're gonna look at now. We want to look at these games. We want to look at these games. I'm going to do 4 games for the best hits, 4 games for the biggest misses.
Okay.
And we want to look at them. Ignore what happened during the regular season, and ignore the actual outcome of the games.
Right.
Thinking back, we're in August, and we want to schedule Week 18 games.
All right.
And so you're going to look at it from that perspective.
Gotcha.
Which of these is the biggest miss and which of these is the biggest hit,
Yeah.
regardless of what actually happened,
Gotcha.
regardless of what we know.
Fair enough.
We didn't think Minnesota would be good because
Understood.
they were lousy the same year and they had the failure up until this season.
Yeah.
Sam
Which
Bradford,
were
all
surprising,
that
which
stuff.
were disappointing.
Right. So all that goes out the window. Just look at it from that perspective.
Right.
So let's start with the biggest misses. Why would you schedule these Week 18? Let's look at the Browns-Ravens. I know maybe people thought, and I'll give you a few reasons. I know maybe people thought the Browns would be a little bit better this season, but everyone thought the Ravens were going to be good. Why would? But they weren't good. Why would you schedule this for Week 18? That's number one.
Well,
number 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. Don't answer yet. I'm going to give you all 4.
Okay.
You pick the worst one in this case. Number 2, Vikings-Lions. Vikings were lousy and expected to be lousy. Lions, I think they went to the conference championship game and were expected to be good, although we didn't have as much faith in them. Why would you schedule that for Week 18?
The Lions were expected to be not great. They were actually pretty good the year before.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They were expected to be, but they were expected to be good. Oh,
the Vikings.
You mean last year they were expected to be not great?
The Vikings. They went to the playoffs the year before last and got beaten by the Giants.
Yeah.
Right,
Anyway.
but then they were 7-10
last year, yeah.
and coming into this
And
season
losing
with Sam
Cousins.
Bradford
They
as
were
the
because they lost
quarterback.
Cousins halfway through the
Yeah,
season.
I get it.
and, yeah.
Right. And Thielen was gone,
that's
and the
number
running
two.
back was gone, who went to the Jets, and then
I see what you're saying, and that was at the beginning of the
going
season. That
into
would have been a
this
shitty
season, the
matchup.
Vikings,
Ahmad
the
Rashad
Vikings
was
were
no
not
longer
expected
there.
to be
Yeah,
good.
it was,
Right. Chris
So why would
Carter and retired.
Carter's gone.
Yeah.
Adrian
Why would you
Peterson
put
was-
that? Why would you put
John
that?
Randall
Game-
was no longer playing.
Right, John Randall.
Game number 3, the
Julius
Texans
Randall
and the
wasn't playing either.
Titans.
Well, now he is actually playing for Minnesota.
Hey.
The Texans and the Titans. The Titans, no Derrick Henry, no Ryan Tannehill.
No Mike
And the
Vrabel.
Texans expected to be one of the elite teams. Why would you schedule that game for Week 18?
They can't all be
All right.
zingers.
Well, and you got to pick which one of these is the biggest miss. Last but not least,
Last but not
Chiefs,
least.
Last but not least, Chiefs Broncos. Chiefs, the NFL on a mission to have them three-peat, and the Broncos. Okay, their defense has been pretty good the last couple years. Russell Wilson didn't work out, but they got rid of him. But now they got a rookie quarterback. Why would you think Chiefs Broncos would be a good game?
Okay,
So which of those four
let me give you a little
is the-
context on that last one
is
first.
the biggest miss?
Chiefs Broncos, no matter what, is always a huge game regionally. Okay, you got to remember those teams basically border a state, and there's a huge rivalry there. So it'd be the equivalent of having, the Giants, Cowboys last week of the season, the Raiders, Ravens. It's that equivalent, right? So I don't think that was a miss. Even if the Broncos did not have a surprising season, it still wouldn't be a miss because from a fan standpoint of the Broncos and Chiefs, that's a big
That's something they want to
game
see. Okay,
all the
fair
time.
enough. This is what I'm asking for.
The Titans and
Texans.
Houston.
How
That
could
was-
you think that would, even
that
if people want to see it, how could you think that's going to be a good
That
game?
was a miss. Obviously, Detroit and Minnesota, projecting wise, would have been a miss too, but it wasn't. It was bound up becoming the highest watched game of the year.
Right, but that's not what we're
But
looking
yeah, we're not.
for.
It's not what we're looking at. And what was the first one?
Browns Ravens, which is, divisional rivalry, and
I think I got to go with that Titans Texans game.
biggest miss. John?
I have to say that the biggest miss of those four games is definitely the Texans Titans. But keep this in mind, and I don't agree with this either. By the way, clearly we all know that the Week 18 games are always interdivisional games.
Right.
They're always, the last divisional game for every team,
Right.
whether it be home or away. Obviously, they count.
And they usually mean a lot because of that. Yeah.
And they usually mean a lot. Okay. Whether they mean a lot to both teams or whether they mean a lot to one team because that one team has to win,
Right.
and the other team that may not be playing as well or it doesn't mean anything for, they could play spoiler. That's where all of that comes into play. So, on that note, they're looking at, if they were looking at how you were referring to it, like with the Ravens playing the Browns. Clearly, I'm sure that the NFL, in their infinite wisdom, did not think that the Browns would be competing against the Ravens for the division in Week 18.
It wasn't like these were nationally televised games,
right? But they thought that maybe the Ravens would be close with the Steelers, and then the Browns could come in and play spoiler for play spoiler for the Ravens, or lay down so that the Steelers don't get it.
And
think that the Browns would have,
Cleveland is
win.
another big rivalry game, as big as the Chiefs.
Well,
and
because
Broncos.
it's the same team.
Yeah,
right?
these are all going to be right. These are all going to be rivalries.
I couldn't
because
agree
they're-
with John more. And let me tell you something to prove his point. They all played out that way.
Yeah.
Bears, Packers. Okay. Saints, Bucks. Seahawks, Rams.
Rams. Yeah.
They all played out, and a lot of them had unexpected outcomes
Right.
that changed things up.
Right.
So, to John's point, that's why they do it, and I think that's actually a good thing. I like having that divisional games for every team ending the season. I do
for
like
no
that.
other reason, right?
It can mean something even if it's not for a division title.
Even if it's
Now,
not a division
would it
title.
have been better if it was Philly and Washington on the last game as
Oh, hell
opposed
yeah.
to the Commanders in Dallas? Yeah. Yeah, they
Right.
could probably project
if it was
out a little better.
if it was Giants, Dallas, and
Philly,
Washington,
Washington.
Philly, that would have been better. But who knew that Washington was
Right.
going to do what they were doing?
Yeah, that's the thing, right.
And who knew that,
Hold on,
the Cowboys weren't going to be?
Right, that's what I was going to say. So if the NFL was looking at this and they were going to go through that division, for me, I would have had the Cowboys and the Eagles playing on that last weekend.
Right.
Yep.
I would have had the Ravens and probably, I guess, the Steelers playing on that last weekend. I would have had, I got to go through all the divisions, but probably Buffalo and somebody not from the AFC East playing.
Well, that's different anyway. But
And
you would have had the AFC South have a bye week 18.
The whole
Secaucus,
just-
the Secaucus
no,
senior
yeah.
high school football team playing Buffalo.
It's fine. Yeah.
All right, so do we all agree Texas Titans was the biggest miss?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Although
Like, they should have known that
historically, the
was not gonna
Titans have
be.
been a good team again.
Yeah,
go
but they
back-
didn't. They don't have any players that they had when
No,
they
no,
were
no,
good.
no. I get it.
All right, let's move on to the best.
Yeah.
Again,
All
same
right.
situation, thinking what we think is going to
Sure.
happen, what the prognosticators say.
Yeah.
Best schedule. Number one, Bengals Steelers.
I thought that. I mean, that's a classic interdivisional lineup. I
I would
thought
think that would be a
that's
good
great.
game, and it would
the only
be
thing
counted
better
for
might have
something.
been Bengals and Ravens, but yeah.
Yeah. Number two, again, thinking what we thought might happen.
Mhm.
Dolphins Jets.
I think that was a good.
Possible.
Yep. And
Should've been a
historically,
good-
always been a good, end of season matchup.
Third one is Seahawks Rams.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
teams,
one should have
maybe-
been Rams 49ers, but
Maybe, yeah. But again, two teams maybe vying for the division title.
right.
And then the last one, I'm going to go a little different here. Chiefs Broncos. I know it was on the
Yeah.
worst list, but I'm putting it on the best list because your thinking could have been the Chiefs won't be playing for anything. Mahomes may not even go to the stadium,
Right.
and the Broncos maybe they've got at least pride, maybe a playoff spot on the line. And if they don't get a good seasonal performance
Right.
out of their rookie quarterback,
It wasn't guaranteed. that
they've
game
got
was gonna be
they've
anything.
got Zach
And
Wilson and Stidham to back him up. So maybe that could have been the thinking. This might be a really good game in terms of a sport.
I think
which of those four was the best?
the best was the Steelers and Bengals,
Mm-hmm.
both projecting
giving-
and actual.
Yeah, because
because they both
I know there were
they were
there
both
some
kind of where we thought they would be. Let's face it.
there were
the
some people that
the
were
Bengals
higher.
were a couple bad calls away from being a 12-win team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the Steelers were maybe a little better. Some people were pretty high on them. Other people said they'll be middle of the pack, which is
They're
kind
right
of
where they
crazy.
are every year. They're right where they are.
you know that the Steelers have not
every
have
year.
they've in the last 10 years, if you will. I think there was 1 year they didn't make the playoffs. Or maybe two. The record's always over 500. But I think there was one, possibly 2 years. I know there was one. It might have been 2 years they didn't make the playoffs, but almost every year they make the playoffs. Do you know the last time they actually won a playoff game was 8 years ago?
Yeah, they make.
Yeah.
In fact, they haven't missed the playoffs in that 8-year span, to the best of my knowledge, and they haven't won a first-round playoff game in that 8-year span.
Right. So it's
the only other one that I could say might have a potential to be a better schedule would be the Seahawks and the Rams.
But
Because you
projecting
could
it out,
look right? But you can look at the Bengals and Steelers and say if we think the Ravens are going to be great, and they'll probably be fighting for a wild card. The Bengals and the Steelers. Same thing with the NFC West, right? We know the 49ers are going to, which of course they didn't, but again, the projection, 49ers are going to win the division. Rams and Seahawks could be fighting for that wild card spot.
I think the only reason why the Rams and Seahawks were as good as they were is because the Cardinals and the 49ers
We're not.
were fucking horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing, going back to my earlier thought about the Rams, that's my hesitation, is how good are these NFC West teams? Geno Smith, let me tell you something. I know Geno Smith put up some impressive numbers this year.
He had a great season 2 years ago. Pretty good. A little bit of a step back last year, but he looked good this year. He's for real. Maybe not elite, but he is a for real quarterback.
I mean, if you look at where he's at in yardage, QBR, and everything else, he's a top 6-7 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
And he's their franchise quarterback now. There's no quarterback search there. It's Geno Smith.
All right, so Bengals Steelers, we all agree, probably the best schedule.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, Texas Titans, the worst. Bengals Steelers, the best.
There you go.
All right,
That's
it. That's it for Are They For Real?
Mm-hmm.
And the only other thing I want to say is congratulations to Mike Evans.
Yes.
11 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons.
17 games.
17 games. Oh, the other guy to do is Jerry Rice. My real question is, it happened on the last play of the game when Tampa Bay had the win in hand. Is it bad form for them to do that just so that he can have that record? Now, he gets a nice fat bonus. Was it $3 million or something for it?
Yeah.
Was it bad form for them? Is it rubbing it in the face?
No.
To say we're going to get this record?
It was gutsy and big balls. But the other team knew it was coming, and the other team did not take it like in a situation like if they threw it to him and he ran into the end zone, that's a different story.
Right.
But it ended the game. I think everybody was happy for him, and I think the other team sort of knew, hey, we're going to throw it here.
Right.
So it wasn't, and we're doing it for this reason. Now,
not to stick it in your face. We're doing it to get this guy who apparently everybody likes. Seems like he's one of the most liked players in the league.
And now, if it was 15 years ago, number one, they probably wouldn't have this amount of bonuses on the line.
Sure.
And I think somebody might have taken offense to it. But I think it was more about the money than the record.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, you had an extra game to do it. Now, I give you credit. You didn't have Steve Young and Joe Montana throwing to you. Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
You also didn't have another. There's no wide receiver 2 on that Bengals team.
Right.
That's where I give my.
And this is right. And the Bucs are not a team that's been good for a decade.
And also think about somebody
the way the 49ers were. They're just not that same kind of organization.
To your point, think about some of the people that were thrown to him. I mean, Baker Mayfield, but it was
Brady.
all Brady, but I mean, obviously 11 years, it wasn't Brady 11 years ago. He had Jameis Winston throwing to him. He had a lot of these other quarterbacks throwing to him. So, that's to your point, Jerry Rice, and not putting Jerry Rice down by any means. I love Jerry Rice, but he had Joe Montana and Steve Young throwing to him.
And he had John, Taylor and Nick Rhodes and
but
Billy Idol playing.
Nick Rhodes, right, exactly. But
that was funny for anybody again over a certain age.
Yeah,
exactly. But
any Facebookers.
There you go. But on that note,
hungry like a wolf.
But on that note, it is a little. If you think about it, it is a little bit more, the quarterback
impressive
situation. It's a little bit more impressive.
Maybe a little bit more impressive.
He had an extra game or 2. So
yeah, 2, right? We had 17 games last season.
Yeah.
Too,
so Jerry Rice, I think, in some of those seasons missed some games. He did it.
Well, I mean, Evans has a little bit of an injury history.
Evans
too,
has
right?
missed games. Evans has missed games. Absolutely.
Here's my point about Mike Evans. Mike Evans is the reason why I'm taking the Bucs in the first round of the playoffs. That's how much I like Mike Evans. I'm happy for him. I don't think it was an issue. I don't think anybody took exception to it. And I think that his entire team and the opposing team knew it was coming. And I think the opposing team,
I kind of felt,
I'll be honest with you. I think the opposing team didn't try that hard to stop it.
Right.
So that's why it wasn't as ballsy of a move. They could have won the game. They could have tried to jump the pass, but it was a really well called play. He was wide open. Mayfield executed it perfectly. He got down, spiked the ball. The game was over. So good for him.
There you go.
It was kind of an exciting moment. I think the other games were over. So I think most of that game, the end of that game was on national television. So most people got to see it. So I think it was a good story.
There you go.
And it's always kind of cool when you get to see history made.
That's true.
Especially when you're talking about guys like Jerry Rice. It's been a long time. So that tells you something. I mean, we've seen other records go down.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in a league where offense is at an all-time high. So,
and speaking of other records, really quick, and I know you got one thing to say, Harry, but the only other thing I just wanted to say, speaking of records, on that note, do we agree that for the Eagles it was smart for Nick Sirianni to not play Saquon and not
absolutely.
Hmm.
And that tells you a lot about Saquon, and it tells you a lot about this Eagles team. There's a difference there. People can talk about the disruption or the lack of, I don't believe any of it. I think this team just needs to have their healthy players on the field in the playoffs, and they just need to execute. They have the most talent.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. That offensive line might be better now without Jason Kelce than it was with Jason Kelce.
Yeah.
Not because of Jason Kelce, but because of who they compositely have on that offensive line.
And got to replace him and moved around, shifted around. Sure. You were going to say before?
I'm going to say one thing.
I just add one thing?
I got 2 minutes and I got to go.
Yeah, I know. I'm just going to say this is sort of an extension of they didn't go for the single game record against the Giants. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Saquon said, no, I don't want to do it. I don't need to do it. So this is sort of that. And it just tells you something about the organization, whether you love them or hate them.
There you go.
Anyway, sorry, that's it.
I don't think it was as big a deal for him. And
I don't either. I think the media made more out of it than it was.
And he might get another chance next season.
You never know. Yeah.
He might.
Or maybe he just loves Dickerson and he doesn't want it.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Harry?
I think you're going to hear everybody's already saying that it's Josh Allen is the MVP. Some people are saying that the only person close is Lamar Jackson. They both had incredible years. I think that when you look at the NFL this year, okay, and you go back historically in time, this argument that quarterback play is not where it has been in the past is utter nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
This might be. I'm not saying we have the best. Brady's gone. Montana's not there. Whatever. We got Mahomes. We got Jackson. Got Josh Allen. And to me, the best quarterback in the NFL isn't in the playoffs. And that's Joe Burrow. Okay, you got record years from people like Geno Smith and Sam Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback
Put Jared Goff
play
on that list too.
What's that?
Put Jared Goff on that list.
Absolutely.
Too. Phenomenal season.
Here's my point. 3 people that should get very, very high consideration for MVPs. Saquon Barkley, Joe Burrow, and Jared Goff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say one other thing, because I think it was a clear-cut, definitive conclusion that it's going to be Jaden Daniels or maybe slight a chance Bo Nix as Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to look at Malik Neighbors, considering what train wreck he had throwing to him all year. And I'm drawing a blank on his name now. Is it Ben Powers? Who's the tight end for
Brock Bowers?
Brock Bowers. There you go. He's my Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I forgot your name.
Yeah, and Malik Neighbors missed 2 games too. Had Malik Neighbors not missed those 2 games, he would have had he would have had the rookie record, because he would have caught at least 4 passes in those 2 games he missed.
But having the record for a rookie tight end be broken on that Vegas team,
yeah,
this guy's under the radar.
Yeah.
I think you got to look at those guys for Rookie of the Year.
I know, absolutely. It's going to be. I think you got it right. I think Brock Bowers and Malik Neighbors are 1 and 2, but Brock Bowers is 1.
I think Daniels wins it.
Well, Daniels will win it because he's a quarterback, right? So quarterbacks get all the awards. It doesn't matter.
I think Daniels wins it, but those guys, I think those guys should be.
But
hopefully they will get enough votes so that we will understand that there are other people who are thinking about this the same way.
Put
if
Jaden Daniels
unanimous or close to unanimous, then it's just the same old.
And look, Saquon Barkley had a hell of a year, and I'm not saying Lamar Jackson didn't,
right?
Or I'm not saying that Josh Allen didn't,
right?
But
Put Saquon, put Jaden. I was just gonna say, put Jaden Daniels on the Giants or the Raiders with the teams that they had, and tell me he does as well as he did. He might do better than what the Giants and the Raiders
He'd probably do
had,
better than what they have now.
but he wouldn't do as well as he did on the Commanders.
I don't think the Commanders had definitively more talent than the Giants or the Raiders.
I
don't.
I think they had more talent than people gave them credit for.
They do.
I think they're a better coach team. I think they played better collectively.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants, same thing with the Jets. The Giants have talent.
Mm-hmm.
It's just some of them are really underachieving.
Yeah,
that's a topic for
majorly underachieving, and we'll end there on that note because we'll definitely pick that up with the underachieving of not just Giants and Jets and Raiders, but a lot of other teams and a lot of other sports too. There's a lot of teams that are underachieving right now, and we got to talk about that at some point soon. So.
I don't know what was more disappointing, the rehiring of the Giants GM or the fact that Brian Cashman is back still.
More to come on both of those facts on the next show. So make sure
that might be a for real, which is less for real.
Let me tell you something. Brian Cashman looks brilliant compared to the Giants, compared to Joe Shane.
Exactly. So, all right. Anything else, guys? Are we good for a couple weeks?
If you're a basketball fan, Zion Williamson might be back tonight. So you probably watch him over the next couple of days before he gets hurt again.
There you go. Yeah, get it in now. There you go.
There's been some great basketball games. We have to do something to allow the NBA to start playing defense again.
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama is the real deal. Got to watch him 2 nights in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And Calvin Booth, GM of the Denver Nuggets, go out and do something big. Do something big. Because if you don't, you're going to waste a generational talent who is not surrounded by enough people to compete for an NBA championship. Yeah. Make a big splash. The salaries are not that different. Go get Zach LaVine and move Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. is not the piece you move. Jamal Murray is. You heard it here first, folks. Go do it. He's a shell of what he used to be. He's overpaid. He might do better somewhere else. Jokic needs somebody who can create a shot for himself, which Murray cannot seem to do anymore. Jamal Murray is he's the 4th best player on the Denver Nuggets behind Jokic, Aaron Gordon when he's on the court, and Michael Porter Jr. Get rid of him.
And that was our quick Denver Nuggets break of the podcast.
Let me tell you something.
Nobody talks about the NBA in 2 quick moments.
But we got the best player in the NBA out here. All right.
Yeah, and he deserves better. Jokic deserves better.
He deserves better, and they're going to actually kill him.
All right.
Because the minute he steps off the court, everything falls apart.
Exactly. All right. On that note, we will wrap up the show for today. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And of course, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Twitch every other Wednesday night around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And for those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on our audio host, Spreaker, as well as everywhere else you can find an audio podcast. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds and you'll never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Watch a lot of sports this weekend. Watch obviously basketball and hockey, but watch all of the playoff games this weekend, and of course the following weekend. And we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, folks. Take care. Cheers.
F StreamYard.